We sorted all that. Yeah, you did that.
So I said, oh, I said, well, cookie's downstairs. So we got them downstairs. When you go, they're on the table, like cookies.
Yeah,
And so they just one side.
I've put eyes on, see, that was
Well, they're not like
Right, 2:39, please. Sorry, I'm just.
yeah.
a bit of trouble. Give me 7 years more and then stop up with the
What have you found?
Yeah, no, that's the inflation. I actually got trying to think why I excavate and why we do it. And it's just basically a mod. It's just a demonstration of how drainage can work in a pit. Now, I think we'll just
stay on this side so that you want to dig a bit to the step. There's it.
Than the church, that was good.
On the side, on the side. Lean down.
Big jump. Whoa! Right.
This would have been great.
Oh, it's the same one, I think.
This would have been a great haul. I'm guessing these balls.
Did they think that was clever at the beginning?
You won't come and help you.
No.